Hello, movie friends. Welcome back to the show. This is Anthony.
And this is James, and today we're putting up two of our favorite zombie movies against each other, Shaun of the Dead versus 28 Days Later. This is our zombie showdown. And I know a lot of people might not think that 28 Days Later is a zombie movie. I respect your opinion if that's what you believe. Personally, I believe that this is everything a zombie movie is. And I know they're not technically undead, the zombies, the Zeds in that movie. You know, they can turn in an instant, basically. You don't have to die to turn into a zombie in that film, which is kind of like the definition of the undead, the zombies. But you know what? It's a zombie movie to me.
These are the two kings of the mountain. You know, these are the pinnacles of zombie movies. And I know the classics are great, but if you look at it, Shaun of the Dead and 28 Days Later are literally the best of the genre. And they are so different from one another. And yet, even though they're both so beloved, like we've been talking to our fans about which ones they prefer, and it's been pretty neck and neck. And
No, it hasn't.
okay, oh, it hasn't.
No.
Oh no, never mind.
I'll reveal the poll in a few.
Oh, I'm interested. I haven't seen that yet. So, but I think for zombie movies, these are definitely the most beloved for sure.
Yeah, and because they're so different, that's why we're putting them up against each other. And these are the two movies in the zombie genre you could say have been copied the most in the 21st century since they came out. So Shaun of the Dead came out in 2004, directed by Edgar Wright, obviously, and then 28 Days Later came out a couple years before in 2002.
You're right. There have been so many zombie comedies lately.
Yeah,
the last 15 years.
Directed by Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland. I mean, yeah, 28 Days Later, the fast zombies, that's kind of like the new main zombie that people put in their films, the fast ones. And then the comedy zombie movie that's very popular. I mean, Zombieland probably wouldn't exist without Shaun of the Dead. And I mean, movies like World War Z, that book and movie probably wouldn't exist without 28 Days Later.
Yeah, and you know, both of these directors are extremely talented, Edgar and Danny Boyle. And this was Edgar Wright's big debut film, his big feature, huge release film debut.
Incredible debut.
Yeah, it's a great first film for audiences to see what kind of a director you are. And because he made a TV series before this, he made Spaced. He had experience with production, so you could see he already had pretty much honed his style and how he wanted to film his movies. And you know, he's always worked with a great DP. And I think Edgar Wright, one of the biggest strengths to his filmmaking and storytelling, and it reminds me of Quentin Tarantino, is he is an avid film lover, and you can see that in his filmmaking and in his writing. He's always homaging things, and the way he films is mostly very classical, and you know, classical lighting. And I think he always has had a respect for the art of filmmaking.
Yeah, Edgar Wright's style of filmmaking, for me, it's always a breath of fresh air. Even among many of the greats, styles can get similar and, you know, repetitive, but Edgar, he really is one of those rare directors who has his own style, has his own pacing, his own storytelling techniques that no one else can really replicate. Or there are a few directors that are kind of similar. Like, I would say that he's like a blend of Scorsese and Guy Ritchie. Like, if those two guys were a director, I feel like that's Edgar Wright, but more comedy heavy than obviously both of those guys, even though their movies are funny as hell. And the thing about his movies, they're heavy on details. He's very meticulous. If something's in the shot, it's there for a reason. He reconnects jokes throughout the entire story, kind of like a stand-up special. So he's very detail-oriented to everything in his films.
And I think for people, they associate Edgar Wright with two things: his editing and his use of soundtracks. And his editing is on full display in this film. The way he cuts together these little montages of, like, you know, early morning routines, but he cuts it together super fast and with the sound effects, and he makes it really fun and filled with energy, and nobody else was really doing that before him. And you know, there's that great montage in Hot Fuzz, you know, when he's traveling from the city into the sticks. And I think that his editing is definitely some of the most original and most energetic among modern filmmakers, and nobody does it like him.
Yeah, I love his transition. So yeah, the Hot Fuzz is a great example. And in Shaun of the Dead, another great transition like that is when Shaun gets blackout drunk and he decides he has to sort his life out. So he writes everything on the board, like, go to mom, or see mom, get Liz back, sort life out. And then he falls asleep and it's nighttime. Then the lights just turn back on, and now it's daytime just a couple seconds later. They didn't cut the camera or anything. It's just like a great way to transition from night to day.
And then also using those extended long takes from when he's journeying to the convenience store both times. You know, that's a great use of filmmaking, these very long takes. It's about 2.5 minutes shot each time, and he reveals, first of all, the day in the life with the first one, and then him entering this new world of a zombie-infested city in the second one.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of fun of, what's so fun about Shaun of the Dead is the extreme irony where Shaun is a zombie really in real life, which is one of the most ironic things. Then also where the audience, we know something terrible is happening. We know zombies are infested the United Kingdom before they do. We know something's terribly wrong before the protagonists ever figure it out,
And what's really funny is that Edgar Wright essentially makes most people look like zombies in the first few scenes in the movie. Like when Shaun's on the bus going to work, everyone sitting on the bus looks like a zombie. Like they're all sunken eyes and they're all like blank face, like mouths open, just like, zombies at work. You know what I mean? So obviously the metaphor is there, just like in the original Dawn of the Dead. But it's really funny because he's sitting on the bus and then everyone else is like open mouth around him. It's really, if check it out for that close detail.
Before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost podcast is to share us with your family and friends and become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost podcast. Patrons get perks like personalized videos, podcast schedules. Top-tier patrons get a monthly shout on the podcast. And the best perk of all is every single patron has access to all of our bonus episodes, which post every Wednesday. And also, we are both now full-time on the podcast. I put my 2 weeks in, so I'm done working at my day job, and we are just now depending on you to pay our bills. So thanks so much for everyone who's become a patron.
Love ya.
Go to our website, raidersoftheLostpodcast.com, to see all of our sources of content, our merch, our custom movie posters, our awesome merch now. We have launching new products like hats and hoodies and beanies for the wintertime. Follow, subscribe, wherever you're tuning in or watching on YouTube. Hit the notification bells everywhere. Thanks for watching.
Edgar Wright in the first act of the film, he edits his film and adds sound effects and music and tries to scare you. Like you'll see arms reaching out of the frame and jump cuts, and it's always just like something trivial or just like something normal. But the way Edgar Wright films it, he always keeps you on edge.
A great example is whenever Shaun's in the bathroom, the first time he's looking in the mirror and then he moves the mirror a little bit and then his roommate's right behind him, very upset. Peter, right?
Peter, yeah.
And then the second time that happens, he moves the mirror at nighttime or in the next day and Peter's in the shower as a zombie. So it's just a great storytelling device without cutting. You just do something like funny and interesting, like move the mirror to get a larger scope of the room and characters.
You got right on, yeah.
And a great revelation of somebody else.
And then, in a contrast, in 28 Days Later, the turn of the 21st century, this is a time when a lot of films were embracing, realism and, grittiness and, less fantastical ideas and like, Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and things like that. Things get a little bit more serious even for big movies. And then with Danny Boyle's interpretation of the zombie film, it's a virus. And it's a very believable turn of events. And especially now, after what we've all been through in the last year and a half, it's definitely very believable. And I've read that scientists say that their biggest fear is if there's ever an airborne rabies virus, because then that would like ravage the world, and you could probably see something similar to what you see in this movie. And luckily, rabies is very rare and is only spread through biting. But this movie seems like it's definitely a possibility in real world circumstances.
They were a bit bitey, but the thing with Danny Boyle, amazing director. I think this is one of his best movies. I think it's super underrated too. Is he says this isn't a zombie movie, and again, I think it's up for interpretation depending on. I think
general public reviews it as a zombie movie.
Yeah, but it's technically from the letter of the letter.
It's
of the
called
sentence,
a rage virus.
Yeah, it's a rage virus. Like I said, no one dies to become a zombie, where you have to die to become a zombie in every other zombie movie. Whereas in 28 Days Later, you can turn just from getting a drop of blood in your eye in a couple seconds, and so the turning process is almost immediate. Versus Shaun of the Dead, where the process probably takes like 24 hours.
You could probably say the same thing about World War Z.
About it being an infection?
Yeah, because they turn so quickly, and it doesn't seem like characters die before they turn.
No, I think they die.
Do they?
It looks like they die.
Maybe. I have to think about it.
I'm pretty sure they definitely die in World War Z before they turn. But the turn is so fast.
Yeah, maybe.
I could be wrong.
I don't know. I think that they turn so quickly. It's more of a virus than of zombies.
But they're definitely zombies in that movie.
Oh, yeah, I would say they're zombies.
It's called World War Z,
Yeah, but I think they have a lot more in relation to the 28 Days Later
obviously,
creatures.
The fast zombies, but even more terrifying.
Yeah.
And also, Danny Boyle, I think, great filmmaker, but something he did with this film that you can look at it both as a pro and a con is filming early digital cameras to make this movie. So he was using the Canon XL1, which is a DV-based Canon camera. And he did this because it's a lot cheaper, a lot faster, because, they're filming around London and they needed to be able to set up shots really quickly and move around fast. And also it does give this gritty quality to the film, which I kind of like. It looks good. The film feels visceral, feels like alive, like the movie.
But I will say the low quality is pretty noticeable sometimes.
I'm just worried about it not aging well.
Yeah, it hasn't aged well, especially because, digital cinema has come such a long way. Although if you watch this on a small enough screen, it looks fine. But if you're going to watch this on a big screen, it will be noticeable, because back then you wouldn't have noticed it because everything you watched on television was mostly standard definition. So this was actually pretty high resolution compared to normal television. But now that we're used to 4K, even 8K, high quality content, if you watch this on a big screen, it might take you out of it, the low quality, because this is literally just HD quality.
But fortunately, the directing is so good and the movie's excellent that I think after a few minutes you get used to it, because, I think we always talk about how things like audio are really the most important part of your film or project. And if you have bad audio, no one's going to tune in. But I think with the quality not being amazing of the resolution and sharpness, I think it's okay, because I think it adds to the film in a way.
And 16 millimeters, if it's done well, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, but I'm just worried about going further into the 21st century. Is that going to be a major con? Is it going to age worse than we think it will?
I think that ultimately, since it's a great film, it will age fine.
Yeah.
But I was going to say something. I'm sorry. And in terms of, like you said, the reason why he filmed this was because it's fast and cheap, but also a lot of the shots in London, they didn't have the CGI or the money to make London really look abandoned for long periods of time. Like, they couldn't do that. So what they did was they figured out a shooting schedule where, so when he's walking on that bridge, I don't know what the bridge is called, sorry for our UK fans, in Buckingham Palace is in the
one
background.
in London.
The one in London. And the palace is behind him. That's real. And they really emptied that area out, but it was only for an hour in the early morning, and that's all they could get. So in order to get these different shots, because it's a pretty long sequence where Cillian Murphy's walking through the streets of London, and it takes a lot of camera work, a lot of setups to do these shots. And so what Danny Boyle and his crew did was they just had a bunch of these small digital cameras, and they set these cameras up all over the city in different spots, and they would just film everything in one take and do that maybe a few times, and that got them all the footage they needed in that small window where they were allowed to film. And then obviously the city had to go back to normal. So they had to basically do this to get what Danny Boyle's vision was for, because I think just seeing the impact of, you see him walking through the city and it's empty. And even if you're not familiar with London, it's a heavy metropolis area.
8 million people live there.
So it's just a stunning first act of this film where Cillian Murphy's character, Jim, is just alone in the city. And that is one of the most powerful parts of the entire film.
Yeah, when he's screaming hello and there's a bus flipped over and he doesn't really know what happened. He wakes up from his coma. So let's just set up the plots real quick. So 28 days later, obviously, I'm sure you've all seen it, is this character wakes up from a coma. Who knows how long he'd been asleep, but he wakes up in abandoned London. Again, a population of 8 million people. He doesn't know where anyone is. And this rage virus in the first scene of the film gets released from these what we call eco-terrorists and environmental terrorists who break into that scientific laboratory, and they release the chimpanzees who have been experimented on, and the rage virus spreads throughout the entire UK. That's what's interesting about these two films, is they take place in the United Kingdom, which
is an island.
Which is different. So I think the spread you could say in 28 Days Later might just be isolated to just UK and Ireland, Scotland, and that entire island area, versus Shaun of the Dead, it probably spread worldwide, because in that film, if you get bit, it takes you time to turn. So you're just sick for about a day, and people are probably still traveling. So you can assume that Shaun of the Dead, it's a global pandemic of zombie apocalypse going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And Shaun of the Dead, just the setup is obviously Shaun and his character in his life and day in his life, and then now zombies are taking over. But they're very different tones.
And Shaun of the Dead, it really is one of the best comedies of the last 20 years. It's just
100%.
It hits every joke. Every joke hits, and it has a great pace to it, especially the first hour of the film. It is just so much fun, and every time I watch this, I crack up. And Edgar Wright, such a comedic genius in terms of his writing and also the way he films, and I think that Shaun of the Dead is such a great movie.
And it's the birth of the Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah.
So it's this, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. And so according to Edgar Wright, the Cornetto ice cream that appears in this film. He didn't like plan it to be the Cornetto trilogy, just sort of happened because he once ate a Cornetto to get over a hangover, and he thought it'd be funny if Shaun did the same thing after a night of drinking in this film.
And then
it was
Ed.
Well, Shaun buys it and Ed eats it. Yeah, you're right.
But and then Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are just so great together.
Yeah.
Their chemistry is amazing.
Yeah, they're so funny together. I love every movie they're in. I could watch a dozen movies of them back to back to back to back to back. But their relationship grows and gets different each film, which is what's so fun about it.
Yeah, and then in terms of 28 Days Later, we have a great we have great breakouts from both Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris, two excellent actors. You've seen Naomi Harris in the last few Bond films and a bunch of other films. Then obviously we all love Cillian Murphy, Peaky Blinders, Last Quiet Place movie, half of Chris Nolan's films. So these two actors, great breakout performances in this film, and they become icons in British cinema.
Plus Brendan Gleeson is in this as Frank. He's an awesome actor. Christopher Eccleston is Major Henry
the Doctor.
West. He's excellent in 28 Days Later. He's obviously a villain in this film. And then Shaun of the Dead, we have, what's his name? Bill Nighy.
Nighy?
How do you say his last name? I always get it wrong. Nighy or Nighy?
I think it's Nighy.
And then Kate Ashfield plays Liz. Peter Serafinovich as Pete. I feel like I've seen him in a bunch of stuff too.
He seems familiar.
Seems super familiar.
He looks like the guy who played Darcy in
Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, he looks like Darcy, but it's not him. They just look similar.
But yeah, overall the casts are excellent. They're a lot of fun. Very different tonally performances, obviously. But you want to get into like specific areas of talking about debate between the films to see who like wins each category. So we're gonna like give each movie a point based on like a topic, like whether it be zombies or gore or scariness, stuff like that, so that we can actually determine a winner of who's the king of the zombies in this episode.
So let's get into our official battle between these two films.
Dun, dun, dun.
What is the first category?
The first category, why don't we start with, how about we talk about the zombies?
Yeah, let's do zombies first.
Let's do zombies first. Yeah. So we'll start with Shaun of the Dead. The zombies here are the iconic, old school, very slow, very dumb, easily outrun. You can outwalk these zombies. Zombies, from like Night of the Living Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead and everything like that. And so the thing with it is it's fun to watch. It's great for comedic effect when used right in this film with Edgar Wright. But also the threat really isn't great unless they're in large numbers and in big mass.
But the comedy is really great. Like when they're drunk, when the zombies attacks are happening, but they get drunk and then they're walking outside the Winchester and then they see like a zombie down the street like groaning at them, and they're just like making fun of it. They don't even know it's a zombie.
And they see the two people making out, and the woman's eating the other guy's neck.
It's so funny. And then that morning, like when Shaun walks to the convenience store and there's blood all over the window door, and he doesn't notice it, and he even slips on a puddle of blood, and then everything's just a wreck and a mess. And he walks by the homeless guy thinking he's just like asking for change.
Like, I don't even have enough money for the store.
And he thinks he's actually a zombie. It's so funny. But like you said, like the threat is pretty low in terms of if they're in small numbers. Like, but it is funny watching, Shaun run around with his what do you call it, a mallet,
cricket
bat, just bashing them in the heads like super easily.
So the kills are fun because they're very slow, and it's super funny. Like when they're in the backyard, the man and the woman, and he's like, "There's a woman in the garden.
She's drunk.
She's so drunk. Oh my god!" So it's funny, and Edgar Wright plays with it so well with the very slow zombies.
And I really love. I think the best part of comedy could be at the end of the movie when he's scrolling through the channels, and the zombies are more of like a fun thing now, and like they have there's like shows with zombies competing in contests, and like there's a woman who's still married to a zombie. Like I really love that part of the film.
But they will eat your face off if they grab you enough. But they're very slow. Not a huge threat if it's just one or two of them. Anyone could take them out. So it's not too scary by themselves. But then 28 days later, they may be the most terrifying zombies we've ever seen. That or that or World War Z.
Didn't they have athletes for the zombies for that reason?
Yeah, because there's a lot of sprinting and athletics involved. They actually had professional athletes playing zombies in this movie.
That's really genius.
Which is very clever. And so the zombies are super fast, super strong. They do not stop sprinting if they find you, and it makes them terrifying. It makes the tone of the film more terrifying than Shaun of the Dead for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just the looks of them, like their eyes, they have those yellow eyes. They're terrifying, and then the turn into a zombie is so fast. Like that great.
Do they have red eyes?
I think they have yellow eyes.
I think they have red. We'll find
They
out
could
later.
have red, yeah. Either one, yeah. They're not normal.
Sure, they're red.
You might be right. You might be right, but you might be wrong. Like that scene Brendan Gleeson turns into a zombie. It's terrifying, and it takes just a few seconds, and it's so brutal. And these zombies, like when I saw this as a kid, I was horrified by it. It was really, really scary. I had nightmares about a movie like this, and that never really happened because I always looked at zombies as very cheesy and very corny before this movie came out. Because I was like a judgmental kid.
Cynical 11-year-old.
But like I always saw like the old ones, and I was like, oh, they don't look real. Like they don't look scary. But then I saw this, and I was like, oh my God, this is terrifying. This is amazing.
And 28 Days Later isn't the first zombie movie to do like fast running zombies. It'd been done like in the 70s, I believe, and maybe in the 80s, but it wasn't on like a large film, not like a big production with a huge budget or anything like that. It wasn't like a theatrical released film, something like that on tons of theaters worldwide. So this is the first big production of fast zombies.
And what's different is like we said earlier with Shaun of the Dead zombies, you could be around a bunch of them, like a handful. No, the risk is not that high, but just having one of these 28 Days Later zombies on your tail, that is crazy dangerous.
Well, I mean, just looking at the complete emptiness of London, it's just terrifying to think that either you ran or that you turned into a zombie after you got bit and ran after other people. So just like I think the complete emptiness of the city, of a huge metropolitan in the world, just shows how terrifying they are.
And how these few survivors there are, the way they're surviving is like through guerrilla tactics and constantly being hidden and, only going out at night and just being extremely careful. I think that shows just how intense the situation was.
And drinking Pepsi products.
Yeah, so much. There's so much Pepsi and Coke products in this.
A lot of product placement.
Yeah.
But you could say, I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like there just were more vending machines back in the early 2000s
That's it.
than there are now, I feel like.
Oh, definitely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, there were definitely way more vending machines.
They were everywhere.
Like everywhere
it's
you
like-
went, there was like a soda vending machine.
Not that there aren't plenty still, but like I feel like there were more.
I don't know. I rarely see them that much nowadays.
They're around.
But not like they used to.
They're at malls.
Yeah, I guess.
I pretty much only see them at malls nowadays.
Yeah.
Sometimes supermarkets.
But I think
nah,
office buildings still have them.
something like
Like
that.
people like just go get something in the hallway.
But I think what is it? They're hiding in a train station, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Anyways, there's a ton of soda in this movie, so like
they gotta make money somehow.
They gotta pay the bills to make the production work. But the zombies in 28 Days Later, way more terrifying.
Yeah.
Super scary compared to Shaun of the Dead.
So animalistic, and that opening scene with the chimpanzees is really terrific. What a great opening!
Yeah, it's just
When you see the first person turn and then they attack the others, it's like, oh my God, this is what this movie is.
the threat is intense.
Yeah.
Intense. So zombies, I'm giving to 28 Days Later.
I'm going to give, even though I love Shaun of the Dead zombies, I'm going to give it to 28 Days Later as well, because for me, I think that the scarier, the better for zombies, and there's nothing more terrifying than a zombie that can chase you down.
All right, let me mark 28 Days Later as having 1 point now.
1-0. Wow.
Oh, man.
Here we go.
All right, what's next? What do you want to do?
Do you want to go with Gore?
Let's do it. If you're watching on YouTube or on social media, you may have noticed that Anthony and I have some new laptops on our desks. These are the LG 17-inch gram ultra lightweight laptops. The cool thing about them is they're 16 by 10 inch aspect ratio versus 16 by 9, courtesy of LG. Thank you so much. These are exceptionally light. You wouldn't even know you're holding a laptop if you held it in your hands. The screens are incredible. We love watching movies on them. And so the extra room is also beneficial for editing video and referring to our notes. So we love the 16 by 10 aspect ratio. So head on over to our YouTube video bios to check out our links for the LG Gram 16-inch and 17-inch models. Thank you, LG, for sponsoring the show and for these incredible laptops.
And we have another amazing sponsor. For all you screenwriters or people interested in getting into screenwriting, head on over to arcstudiopro.com/Raiders to get $30 off the Arc Studio Pro membership. This is the most efficient, streamlined, and elegant screenwriting software on the market. Arc Studio Pro provides users with all sorts of perks like apps for your desktop or phone, online collaboration with co-writers, so it's like you're writing with Google Documents with a friend, super helpful outlining tools, revisionist management, and links to feedback. I use Arc Studio Pro every day with my screenwriting needs because of how amazing the software is. Again, head on over to arcstudiopro.com/Raiders, arcstudiopro.com/Raiders to get $30 off your membership and start writing today. We love gore, not too much, but like
when it's done right.
Yeah, when it's done well. And they both these movies have a lot of gore, but they approach it in different ways. And I really like Shaun of the Dead's gore because it's very funny at times. Like when what's his name?
Pete? David, yeah.
When David gets pulled through the window and then they just start tearing apart his stomach and pulling his guts out.
They're like eating his intestines.
It's like so funny.
So what Edgar Wright did so well is it's like the campy gore from like the Evil Dead and the Night of the Living Dead, but it's like done it's modernized and he still kept the funniness with it. As well as there are great instances of very good gore in Shaun of the Dead that aren't funny.
I think my favorite moment of gore is when Shaun pushes the girl in his backyard. And she falls onto that iron pipe, and that first thing he's like, oh my god,
just killed a girl.
But then she slowly stands up, and then Edgar Wright keeps the camera on her back, and then we see Shaun through the hole in her stomach. I think it was a great shot. That's my favorite shot.
That's the first bit of gore in the movie. You can say. I'm pretty sure.
I think so. Yeah.
So that's an excellent example to choose.
But yeah, he's not afraid to go super gross and super cringy with it because that's part of the tone.
Whereas 28 Days Later, it's a lot more
brutal.
It's gruesome. Yeah, it's brutal. It's
like when
very
when she chops off the other guy's arm. Like that's crazy. And it's messed up.
Yeah, and then the blood coming. Yeah, and when they puke and stuff like that too. It's very intense. In a all great ways, you know. It's not too much, I don't think.
Yeah.
But it's just like walks that fine line of being a little too like stomach churning, but I think it's okay.
And the realism, the grittiness in the camera work adds to that, and it will be more stomach turning than the Shaun of the Dead kind of gore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also it's less obviously tongue in cheek. You're not going to see guts falling out of someone's stomach, but most of the gore is done in terms of like. The zombies actually attacking someone or, like that moment with Naomi Harris' character. So
Selena,
thank you. So I would say that the gore is definitely on full effect in the Shaun of the Dead film.
Yeah, I'm picking Shaun of the Dead because it's both great gore and the campy gore mixed together and done so well.
Yeah, I would give it to Shaun of the Dead as well because it's so much fun and gross, but in a good way and really funny.
You got red on you.
Got red on you.
So, all right, 1-1 now. Oh, man, I like it.
It's a tied game.
Let's see. How about Scariness?
Okay, Scariness.
So 28 Days Later, in my opinion, is a lot scarier than Shaun of the Dead. Not that Shaun of the Dead doesn't have scary moments, especially in the third act, it can get pretty scary. But 28 Days Later, definitely scarier with its dark tone. I mean, just the tunnel scene where they they get the flat tire and the zombies start coming. They see the shadows running at them. They're trying to get the spare tire on so fast, but they're sprinting down the tunnel. That is just the most anxiety-inducing scene I'd seen in years.
Yeah.
And like until I saw Uncut Gems, which is just an anxiety trip. But that scene alone is more scary than any part of Shaun of the Dead.
And there are plenty of scares. Like in Edgar Wright, like I said, pokes fun at trying to scare the audience in the first act, like by making fun of jump scares the whole time.
Yeah.
And there are bits like we watched it the other day and you jumped at one of the bits.
Yeah, I did. It was just like someone walking into the frame.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think his filmmaking, he understands how to scare an audience through the camera work and with sound and music. And like you said, the third act does get pretty scary once people start dying and then once the zombies pretty much surround them and it seems like there's no way out, it does get pretty scary. So Edgar Wright did do a good job of adding plenty of horror into his film.
But the zombies themselves of 28 Days Later, just the speed, the ferocity, the animalistic nature, the sheer terror they bring an audience, it's just so much more terrifying, just the zombies, let alone the situations the characters find themselves in.
Yeah, I got to agree. 28 Days Later, like just the opening scene is scarier than the entire Shaun of the Dead. And, Danny Boyle's approach was really to just terrify the audience, and he pulled it off in every scene. And it's just that horror of also, because like when people turn in Shaun of the Dead, you're not like, oh no, it's still kind of funny. Like it's not the end.
It's a slow turn.
Yeah, but in terms of when people turn in 28 Days Later, it's like horrifying. You're like when Frank is turning, like no, not him. He seems like a great dad.
Contorting and like movements of his body.
Yes. So I think that even just like the idea of people turning into zombies in 28 Days Later is terrifying.
Versus when his stepdad turns in Shaun of the Dead, it's hilarious.
Yeah, and he turns off the music. There isn't an ounce of the husband in you.
No, he was my dad, but he's dead now. What are you talking about? Philip is fine. It's funny.
Exactly. So I think that for Scariness, especially with the third act, it's just wild. And I like how Danny Boyle turned, the real monsters in the story ended up becoming the men in that compound, and so humanity can be the monster as well, which is a great take on fear. So I think for scariness, 28 Days Later has to take it.
I concur.
So 2-1.
2-1. Shaun of the Dead. It's only down by one.
The game just started.
Yeah, we just started.
Yeah, we're still we just finished the first quarter.
What category would you like to do next? And then we'll head into intermission.
I would like to do directing.
All right, let's do directing.
Let's do directing.
All right, so despite his choice of using the DV cameras and how it maybe hasn't aged super duper well, I think Danny Boyle's directing is exceptional in this film. I think just the story he's telling, the way he tells it, even just getting the shots in London of abandoned London and on the bridge and everything, it's just excellent, masterful storytelling throughout the entire script and process of the film.
Yeah, Danny Boyle's filmmaking, he's always had so much energy to his directing. And, I'm talking like Trainspotting, Slumdog Millionaire, this movie. I would have been curious to see him make a Bond film, but it didn't end up happening. But he's had a really eclectic career, and he brings so much energy to his films. And this one, obviously, has so much to it.
But it knows when to tone it down. He stops and slows the show down a lot. So there are a ton of beats where it's fast, then it's slow, then it's fast, and it's slow. It's like this constant rhythm throughout the story.
Yeah, and I really love the cinematography. It's very minimal, but also very very dark and very grim. I think he really makes use of the fact that hardly anyone has electricity anymore.
Yeah, and I mean Edgar Wright is a phenomenal director. His raw talent is broadcast all over Shaun of the Dead. Does an exceptional job for it being his first film. But his style wasn't fully developed yet. If you watch it, it's probably his slowest movie out of everything. He's gotten faster paced with all of his storytelling. I mean, even Baby Driver is just constantly going. But Hot Fuzz is a lot faster. I think Hot Fuzz might be his best movie in general. I mean, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. So I think the directing that Edgar Wright does is exceptional, especially for a first-time director, but I think he's just a notch below Danny Boyle in terms of just directing.
But you can tell he knows how to direct.
Oh, absolutely,
and he understands framing, and the lighting is very classical lighting, and I think that the cinematographer he works with, Pope, I think is Jim Pope is his name, really, really great cinematographer. Go ahead and fact check me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's his name. But I think this movie is really well made and well crafted. It's just small. It doesn't have that much of a budget, and Edgar Wright worked around that by making most of it take place either at Shaun's place or at the Winchester. And I do think that his filmmaking techniques are really brilliant. Like we talked about, the editing, his use of music with his film, especially the Queen song at the end when they're hitting the zombies to the beat and rhythm of the song, and
that's probably where most of the budget went.
Yeah, to that Queen song.
Don't stop me now. I'm having such a good time.
And I think he has such a love for music, and then putting it into his films. Obviously, it's become most pronounced with Baby Driver. I think everything he led to that movie in terms of his use of music, but he really was beginning that with this film for sure.
Yeah, but I think Danny Boyle just at this point in his career was just harnessed his talent. This might be his peak directing. This and Slumdog Millionaire are probably his two best films. So I think, and Trainspotting of course. So I think I would probably give the directing to 28 Days Later, and that's not a slight on on Edgar Wright at all.
Yeah, I would say the vision of 28 Days Later and how he pulled it off, the direction of it. It was so unique, visually stunning, even though, it's still HD. But I think that what he did with 28 Days Later was really incredible. And so I got to give directing to Danny Boyle as well.
And he changed the zombie genre. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Edgar Wright had his huge footprint on it as well.
Yeah.
This is now why we have fast zombies, this movie.
So I think Danny Boyle.
Again, all of our hardcore Edgar Wright fans, we are hardcore Edgar Wright fans, so don't get upset if we picked him over Danny Boyle over him for directing, because we love Edgar Wright. For two of his movies on Blu-ray. Anyways, let's move on.
So what is that, 3-1?
3-1 right now.
3-1. Oh,
all right,
man.
Let's see if we can make up.
You want to do intermission first?
Oh yeah, let's do our intermission. Then we'll try to get Shaun of the Dead some points back.
Points back on the board.
Let's go to our intermission, and the first competition is going to be our movie quotes. And so this is from Evan Martirana. Bread makes you fat.
What? Bread makes you fat?
Yeah, this is easy.
Oh man.
So I'll
Oh,
say
it's Scott Pilgrim.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say it with a full mouth. Bread makes you fat.
It's
I
Scott.
can eat garlic bread for every meal. I love garlic bread.
Scott says it. Yeah. That's funny.
Oh yeah, I've seen that movie way more than you.
I've seen it a few times.
I mean, you didn't get that line right away. Whew. Red flag.
Did I get it?
Red flag.
No. So you're being like that guy who said you took too long answering a question.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Last week, you're being just like him.
You're right. I'm
You
sorry.
cynical bastard.
I'm sorry. Your turn.
Here's my quote: "Leave the gun. Take the cannoli."
Godfather.
Yep. Good one.
That's a good one. All right. Guess this movie release year. Resident Evil.
Oh, good one.
Resident Evil.
I'm gonna go with 2002.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice job.
I almost said a 1.
Good job.
Close one. I was so nervous.
Sure.
Okay, here's mine. Cool Runnings.
Oh man.
We are Jamaica. We are bobsled.
I feel like
team.
this is probably one of John Candy's last movies, right?
I don't know when he died, so I couldn't answer that.
I'm gonna go 1998.
93.
Wow, it's that old?
Yeah, it's
Holy
pretty
crap.
old. Yeah, I was surprised too.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
All right, movie pop quiz time. What is Chris Evans' character name in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World?
Damn it.
Tough one.
Oh man. Hold on. It's super masculine. Is it Bert?
No,
Damn it. Vince.
you're not gonna
No,
get it.
I don't know.
Lucas Lee.
Lucas Lee.
Honestly, I think the funniest shot in a movie I've ever seen in my life, the first time I saw Scott Pilgrim, was when he dials a number with a handgun.
It's so funny.
on the payphone.
It's so friggin' funny.
Funniest thing I've ever seen in my
I
life.
died when I saw that for the first time.
Oh my God.
He's so funny with the sideburns.
Yeah.
and he's got like the chin beard.
That's such an underrated movie.
It's amazing.
It might be his funniest movie.
It's really great. It has some really hysterical moments.
His filmmaking in that is exceptional too. Like so much green screen, but it looks great.
He got a $90 million budget. He's like, let's have some fun.
Yeah, he went
Let's
awesome.
do it.
It's a perfect movie.
Yeah, it's really excellent.
All right, your turn.
My quiz is, how many Gore Verbinski movies has Hans Zimmer scored?
2.
2?
Yeah.
Do you know movies Gore Verbinski has made?
Oh, sorry. Hold on. So hold on. Because we gotta. Yeah, I was like, I totally got Gore Verbinski mixed up with somebody else in my head.
I was like, let me fix
and
this.
it was a straight up guess when I thought he was the other guy. All right, so Gore Verbinski, he did 3 of the Pirates film scores, right? So he did.
I'm not saying yes or no to
I'm just
anything.
talking to myself. I'm
Okay.
talking. This is how I
Okay.
think. That's how it helps me figure stuff out. So he did those 3. What the hell else has Gore Verbinski done? Some other crap.
Some mystery.
Some other shit.
Crap. He's a great director.
Well, I didn't mean crap in a bad way.
Who means crap in a good way?
Like you could say like you could have they're bet donuts all over your table. You can be like, get this crap off my table, but it's still delicious stuff. Donuts, you know.
Yeah, but it's being referred to negatively.
All right, he's made several great films.
Thank you.
Oh man, I feel like did he make Lone Ranger? I think he might have. So that would be 4. I'm gonna guess 6.
7.
Oh man,
You're close.
so he did the 3 Pirates.
Yeah.
Lone Ranger.
Yep.
What else?
The Ring.
Oh, he directed The Ring.
Yeah, that was the first collaboration. Rango.
Oh yeah.
And then The Weatherman with Nick Cage.
Nice.
Good guess, though.
Yeah, not bad.
He's a great director, man. The
Oh, yeah,
Ring
he's
is
awesome.
awesome.
Pirates of the Caribbean is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah, he made all the first 3 Pirates.
All right.
Excellent director.
Who is our hater of the week? Do you have any real ones?
I got a couple good ones. We have
Some real haters?
yeah. So we posted on our Dune video. We were talking about how Denis is a great director and Blade Runner 2049 is a modern masterpiece. And Tana Donna said, "Please stop saying Blade Runner 2049 is a modern masterpiece. That just means you're dumb." I was
Wow.
like,
But also, you corrected his grammar. He had some pretty bad grammatical errors in that sentence.
yeah, I said it properly,
Yeah, you
but
said
he
it right.
spelled it incorrectly.
But still, I mean,
yeah.
Blade Runner 2049 is a masterpiece.
If you don't think so, you're it's your this is
This is his opinion.
And then DJ Dex, he wrote a big one, but essentially said, "Can you guys stop loving on Denis Villeneuve? You guys are the most established fangirls. Dune was a hot mess. The score If you love those farming French horns, then you're in luck. Hans loves them, and they're farting all over this film.
Hey, bud, I know if you don't like a movie, you don't like a movie, but he's not farting all over the movie. Like, his score is incredible.
And he also said Timmy Chalamet is awful as Paul. He called
Perfect as Paul.
And he said Timmy Chalamet is a twerp that couldn't be strong enough to be Duke if his life depended on it.
The book, he's perfect as Paul. Paul's a very weak character.
He's 15 years old.
He's mentally just unready. He's not ready for anything.
Unbelievable.
He's a very quiet, unsure of himself boy in the book. He's perfect as Paul Atreides. He does it so well.
And
hey, man, you have your own opinion. Whatever. It's your opinion.
Live your life, man.
The insults could have left the insults out.
I got a good one. And then I have a unsubscribed hater.
Let's go.
I made a clip about the spider in the first Spider-Man that bites Peter Parker. They actually painted a real spider red and blue. And then Chris Coates 28 said, "No, it was a real radioactive spider. For the love of God, man, check your facts." Unsubscribed. And then I have a top comment. It was my favorite comment of the week. I posted a clip about Christian Bale's various weight transformations for his roles throughout his career. And then Drew Mr. Misfits wrote, "And then he just bulked up to 450,000 pounds to play the sandworm in Dune."
That's pretty good.
I thought that was a good one.
All right, you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
So our supporter this episode is a 5-star review. They didn't leave their name, but this is their post. Appreciation. The first podcast I ever listened to. Huge movie fan, and now I can't watch a movie without afterwards checking to see if you guys did a review on it.
Aww.
Thanks so much for the
awesome.
5-star review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Unfortunately, the only place you can leave reviews, but hey, anyone who's done it, we really appreciate it so much.
Thanks so much.
On this day in film history, slow down, James. October 28th, in 2001, Donnie Darko was released.
Ooh.
And happy birthday to Julia Roberts and Joaquin Phoenix.
Nice.
What do you got for a streaming rec?
I have We Need to Talk About Kevin on Amazon Prime.
It's a good one.
It's Lynn Ramsey's second film, and she made a real stunner. And Ezra Miller broke out in this movie. He is absolutely fantastic, and it's a really dark, really intense drama. Really, I mean, it's an incredible film. Lynn Ramsey is one of the best filmmakers in America working today, and I mean, she just did that Joaquin Phoenix place, You're Never Really Here.
That's such a good movie.
Great film.
People got to check that out if you haven't seen it.
She's an amazing director, and this is an amazing film. Check it out.
If there's one thing you need to survive in the zombie apocalypse, it has to be Manscaped's brand new body wash and shampoo conditioner 2-in-1 products. So these are the products I've been teasing that first batch. We have some new products from Manscaped finally. So the body wash is great for men, and shower shampoo conditioner 2-in-1. They smell amazing.
They
by the
smell
way.
awesome, yeah.
And there's a ton. It's like 18 inches. You could beat someone to death with this.
You can beat up a zombie with it.
You really could. It's metal. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So this is just the first of new products coming to the Manscaped line. There's some more stuff coming in November, which we can't reveal yet, but these are brand new. Use our coupon code Raiders of the Lost at checkout from manscaped.com to get 20% off and free shipping today. In addition to these awesome new products, make sure to get the Lawnmower 4.0, the Performance Package 4.0, the Weed Whacker, their body wipes, the men's wipes, the foot sprays. Everything is great, and we can't wait to show you guys what's coming in November. So they're just expanding their men's product line. It's awesome. Again, Raiders of the Lost at checkout for 20% off and free shipping.
What I really love about Shaun of the Dead and 28 Days Later is they both have awesome posters. I love both movie posters. If you need posters for your house, for your place of work, head on over to movieposters.com and use our promo code Raiders10 to get 10% off your order today. We used to have an older promo code that is no longer usable, so the new code is Raiders10 to get your discount. Movieposters.com is the #1 place to get your posters online today. They have all sorts of sizes, framing, backlighting. Whatever your poster needs are, they can handle it. They also have a massive selection of films. Pretty much every movie you can think of, they have it. Again, head on over to movieposters.com and use our promo code Raiders10 to get 10% off your order today. All right, let's get back into this battle episode. And now the score at the moment is 3-1. 28 Days Later is winning.
Woo, kind of surprised.
I'm worried. Is this going to be a landslide victory? Is it going to blow out Shaun of the Dead? But we'll find out.
People are sweating right now listening. They're like, oh, I love Edgar Wright.
All right, and I think the next category we should discuss is characters.
Characters.
I had an aneurysm. Characters.
Characters.
And now, both films have great characters. They have great leads, excellent actors. And Shaun of the Dead, Shaun, obviously the title character, great character. Everyone relates to him. He's like, I feel like everyone's been at that moment in their life. I definitely was, where I was like not motivated. I was not like pursuing anything.
You were plateaued.
I was lazy. Everyone goes through a rut. And so I think everyone can relate to Shaun.
Life is passing him by. He's just mediocre at everything. He just wants to stay at the Winchester every night and get drunk. And, his girlfriend wants him to be more ambitious. She wants to actually do things with her life. She doesn't want to be stuck at the Winchester every night. But then his best friend, Ed, is like his only friend. And, he doesn't want to abandon Ed in a way. And Ed, I'm assuming every time I watch this movie, like, he didn't have a place to stay, so he's just been crashing on their couch for like a year now or something like that. That's what it feels like. And I think Ed and Shaun, their back and forth is just so genius and funny. And it's everyone's had friends like that, and they both grow immensely throughout the course of the film. Shaun is basically, like we said, a zombie himself in his life, and it takes a zombie apocalypse for him to like wake up and get motivated and do something.
He becomes a leader.
Yeah, he really becomes something with himself, and it changes his life.
And then Ed becomes a zombie.
but they still get to hang out and play video games. But Ed, he kind of sacrifices himself at the end. He helps them get away and chooses to stay and hold off the zombies for them.
And then in contrast, I would say that the probably the weakest part of 28 Days Later is, the lack of character development. There isn't too much. I think that survival is the main theme, and survival is all anyone is focused on. Obviously, we meet Frank and his daughter, and that's nice. But especially with Celine,
that's nice.
Especially with Celine's character, she doesn't even want to talk to Jim. She's like, I don't want to know anything about you because I want to just, I might have to kill you one day. Same thing she did with her old friend, and she's ruthless. So you don't want.
Celine is a badass.
Yeah, she's great.
Like, she will mess you up. Like, she kills that guy when he gets bit, but you could say that is the right thing to do, obviously.
Oh, of course.
But that's pretty ruthless. In like a week you've turned into a killer of people.
Yeah, and then Jim. We learn a little bit more about him. Like we go to see his parents, and he sees that they died. They took prescription pills and overdosed on purpose to, not have to deal with the zombie apocalypse. And there are good moments, but I would say that the character development is lacking in this film a bit.
They do, have at the end in the final act and post apocalypse when they survive the military compound. They seem to be together. One part about Jim, he seems kind of like a static character emotionally for a while, but he kind of transforms into a zombie in a way in the third act.
A monster.
He becomes a monster himself, which is super interesting. And I think 28 Days Later just has more of an existential element to thematically to the film in terms of what it means to be human and what happens when you lose your humanity, which is really interesting.
Yeah, like when he kills the soldiers and then he goes up to Selena and she's about to kill him because she thinks he's a zombie because of the way he was acting.
And she has to wait to see his eyes.
Yeah.
And so it's really great transformation. And so but it comes down to which characters do you enjoy spending the movie with more. I think I'm going to give it to Shaun of the Dead because not even just Shaun and Ed. I think Liz is great. And
Barbara's funny.
Barbara's super funny. His stepdad, Philip, is super funny. Pete's
the
a
other
great
couple,
character.
Diane.
Both movies have great characters, but I think Shaun of the Dead, when you're watching a movie, I just have more fun with them versus it's not that 28 Days Later is a fun movie. It's not supposed to be, but I just enjoy my time more with the characters in Shaun of the Dead.
I agree. And I think the characters are just more memorable in Shaun of the Dead.
Versus 28 Days Later, you just think of the zombies mostly.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, the characters are all very unique in Shaun of the Dead, and they all have parts to play, and they have their moments of shining and getting, a little bit more screen time than the others. And I would say, in terms of characters, Shaun of the Dead wins.
I mean, Edgar Wright spends the first 20 minutes of
setting
the movie
it up,
setting up all these characters and their relationships, and before zombies even come into play.
That's what I mean about development. In terms of 28 Days Later, the movie works because you wake up with Jim, and that's really an amazing way to start the film. But Edgar Wright spends 25 minutes letting us get to know the characters before anything hits the fan.
But I think you put it perfectly. They're more memorable.
Yeah.
And when you think of Shaun of the Dead, you think of the characters. And 28 Days Later, you don't really you think of Cillian Murphy because he's awesome. You think of Naomi Harris because she's awesome. But their characters don't fully stick with you. I would say that Frank is probably the most memorable character in the movie.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah, or the Major.
Yeah. So the Major in a wrong way, in a bad way too, because he's so evil. But I'm picking Shaun of the Dead. So let's give that to Shawnee. of the
Good
Dead.
job,
So
good job,
now
Shaun of the Dead.
we're at 3-2. It's comeback time. This
coming
is the
back.
comeback kid.
Here we go.
Which character would you like to do next?
Which category?
I mean, did I say character?
I threw you
We
off.
keep mixing both those words up now.
I think we should go to best kills.
All right.
So which movie has the best kills? And both films have a great amount of gore. They have awesome kills, and they're both terrifying. But I think there's, going over the kills and 28 Days Later, I think the best kill would be probably Selena killing her friend because it was so shocking to see her.
Yeah.
And also a couple of the kills of the soldiers in the third act of the film as well. Definitely some great moments there.
I think, and also you could say of killing the zombies too.
Yeah.
So like when they are
Yeah.
unloading on them, it's pretty crazy. And there's a lot of more there's gunfire in that movie versus Shaun of the Dead. There's hardly any
guns, yeah.
Does the Winchester fire?
The rifle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They take turns loading it with him. Yeah.
So
And they each take a turn, like, here, you take it. No, you take it.
But I love the killing in Shaun of the Dead, not just of like the zombies killing the people, but also of them killing the zombies, because it's like they move so slow and it's just like free range, like unloading swings with the cricket bat and everything. And so I think it's a lot of fun watching Shaun run around and killing all these zombies that are just barely moving. It's pretty entertaining. So I think in terms of killing, best kills, both zombies killing humans and humans killing zombies, I think I would probably vote Shaun of the Dead.
And, there are really great moments in Shaun of the Dead, like when they're loading the rifle for him, he's taking out the zombies in the windows, and then David's death, I think, is the best of both movies. It's because you kind of want him to die.
Yeah. Can't wait.
You're kind of hoping he dies, and there's tragic moments like when he has to kill Barbara. That's really tragic. His own
Shoot
mother,
mom in the head.
Yeah, and that's pretty crazy.
But also their inability to kill zombies is super funny as well. Like when they're trying to kill the bartender with the pool sticks, and it's like they're not doing anything, and they're trying to kill the zombies with the records. It's very funny.
Yeah.
The attempted kills.
And I like the earlier when the two were making out and the zombie lady, like the guy's head falls backwards. It's super funny.
And I love the first time they kill zombies in the backyard when they just like switch sides. Which one you want, bloke or girl? The first one. And then they're just over killing and hitting them in the head constantly. It's so funny.
And they're covered in blood. He's like, you got red on you.
So I think I'd give kills for both zombie killing human and human killing zombie to Shaun of the Dead.
And I would say, although 28 Days Later is more realistic and much more intense, I would say Shaun of the Dead has the better kills.
Wow, we are tied 3-3. Comeback time for Shaun of the Dead. I knew it would happen.
This is looking, yeah. I mean,
and just so you know, we didn't plan this out ahead of time.
I didn't know what you picked.
I didn't know what he picked either. So it's just probably a twin thing. It's like how sometimes we order the exact same thing at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's just like kind of annoying.
Or
it's
chicken.
Sometimes we'll both get I'll get the double bacon cheeseburger with avocado and the side of sweet potato fries, and I'm like, I'll have the same thing.
I'll have the exact same thing.
I hate to be an identical twin, but I'm doing it. It sounds delicious.
We have very similar tastes. You know what I hate saying is when people are like, when you meet someone new, and they're like, so what's it like being a twin? Do you guys like all the same stuff? And I'll be like, yeah, kind of. Basically.
No, but we do different stuff.
Yeah, but we do like a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to be like, no, we're totally different. We don't have anything in common. But then I'm like, yeah, we're pretty.
Listen to a lot of the same music, watch all the same movies.
We like the same food.
Although I do not like Cool Ranch Doritos very much. I'll eat them, but
so for me, Cool Ranch Doritos, I think, are the best. They might be my favorite
is
snack.
so much better. Come on.
No. Cool Ranch is the way to go.
And also, I'm big on peanut M&Ms, as everybody knows.
I love peanut M&Ms, but I'm Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, your Reese's Pieces are good, but I'll take a bucket full of peanut M&Ms over Reese's Pieces any day.
I think you were so depressed when they didn't have it at the theaters.
Oh man, we went to see The Last Duel, and they only had regular M&Ms, and I was distraught.
You looked everywhere.
I even when I was in line, I asked her at the checkout. I'm like, "Do you guys have peanut M&Ms?" She's like, "I don't know if it's on the shelves." And I'm like, "Hold on, let me run around. There's people waiting in order." I'm like running between all the shelves to find peanut M&Ms.
You were like, "Damn it."
I'll take the regular chocolate ones, milk chocolate. Still delicious, but not the same. That was a rant.
You were devastated.
We should do an entire episode of what it's like being a twin.
I think people would like to hear that.
All right, so we're 3-3 now.
Wow, tied up.
So we did characters, scariness, gore, kills, directing, zombies.
Music.
So let's do music now.
Music.
For me, music has to go to 28 Days Later just for John Murphy, and especially In the House, in a Heartbeat, that song, the music, the theme to this movie is an iconic horror theme now.
It's a great theme. And I know Edgar Wright is famous for his music and his soundtracks, but Shaun of the Dead doesn't have that many tracks in it.
In terms of an original score.
Yeah. Oh, I just mean music in general. It could be regular music.
Yeah.
And obviously the Queen song is the best, but the score for Shaun of the Dead, it borrows heavily from The Thing. It has that dun 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 dun, like that synthy bass line.
Mm-hmm.
That's from The Thing, and obviously he's paying homage to The Thing, but I think that since it is so much like The Thing, it can't really count as its own score.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Versus the music, and again, John Murphy, he did a great job in this movie. Then also in Sunshine, another Danny Boyle movie that he did. Both these films have iconic songs that are just, everybody knows the theme to 28 Days Later. Everyone knows Adagio in D minor from Sunshine. Like they used it in Wonder Woman for When She Flies in the new one.
Yeah, and Shaun of the Dead, there are some good songs, but it's not like Baby Driver where he used like 40 songs.
Yeah.
He used maybe 6 or 7, I think. And they do work well, but I think ultimately, like you're saying, John Murphy is a really talented musician, and he made a really great theme. Like it's a very recognizable theme. When I hear it, I know that's 28 Days Later. You know what I mean?
Something to do with it's horror too. Immediately that's a horror song.
Yeah. So and the way he used it in different ways, from like really basic, just like the guitar by itself, to using like really like shredding the guitar. You know what I mean? And adding effects to it. So I think it's a really excellent score. It suits the movie perfectly, and it adds that dread to the movie. Also, it's suspenseful. It feels like something's about to happen when you listen to it. It's like kind of reminds you of the Joker theme in Dark Knight, where it's like rising and rising until it like crescendos. So a really fabulous theme. So I would say, in terms of music, I gotta give it a 28 Days Later.
Yeah, and one of the best moments in music in both films is when Jim is walking around abandoned London, and it's that rising theme, the rising music, until, like you said, it just has a great climax. And that's one of the best parts of the movie, I think, especially because of the music, going with the abandoned London and streets.
Oh, definitely.
So now,
It's 4-3.
28 Days Later has taken the lead back 4-3. How many categories do we have left?
We have one category left.
What's the final category?
The ending.
Oh, yeah, endings.
How's the ending?
All right. So the ending of 28 Days Later is they escape that military compound, and then they seem to be just living in the countryside of the UK somewhere. And
I really like this because you never seen in a zombie movie, and technically they aren't zombies if you look at it this way. They're starving.
Yeah.
All the zombies are starving at this point. They've run out of food, and that wouldn't happen for like a typical zombie because they're already dead, and so they wouldn't need sustenance. Although that wouldn't really make sense in terms of them needing to eat brains and flesh. So I mean, the idea of a zombie is kind of silly, and so I like the approach of the zombies starving. I really like that.
And then they make that giant hello sign in the grass, and the plane flies overhead, and it seems like they're going to be saved and live on, and it's okay. And the thing with 28 Days Later is, when you think about it on a global scale, it seems like it was just isolated to maybe just the UK and Ireland, Scotland, just these island little countries over there. And so
it's possible, yeah.
So it's possible they may be the only one that experienced this. And there's planes flying earlier on too that gives Jim hope before this. So
I would say, since the zombies turned so quickly, it's possible that it didn't spread.
That it never got on a plane. You know, that's the thing. So that's why I don't think it spread at all. Because even if it got on a plane, if it got on a boat, like, it seems unlikely that a zombie would have done that or gotten onto transportation to go to a different country.
And then in terms of Shaun of the Dead, Shaun and Liz escape the Winchester, and the military has taken over and gained control of the country, and we get to see a really funny ending where Shaun and Liz are living together, and he scrolls through the television. Like I said earlier, there's all these like TV shows where
it's like those silly competition games where people are wearing helmets, and
but there's zombies. Yeah. And then there's the woman's still married to the zombie on like a Jerry Springer-esque show, and I think that the approach to like zombies in popular culture now was really funny and really smart. And then also Shaun goes into his shed, and who's there but Ed, zombie Ed, and they play video games together.
I think,
very funny.
Super funny. They're both great endings. But the thing with 28 Days Later, not that I'm not satisfied with it, but it seems like it would have been better to end it more of a dramatic note and maybe show danger or something to set it up for a sequel, which obviously they did because the zombies are still alive, but I think that maybe not ending it on such a positive tone would have helped the ending.
I agree too. I think that if it had been a little bit more dramatic and less cathartic, it could have been a little bit more impactful. But I think it's still a great ending, but also it's I mean, I like it. I really do. I like it a lot, but the Shaun of the Dead ending, I think that ending is really, really satisfying.
It's original.
It's very original.
Like humans are now living with zombies.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I love it. I think it's really terrific. It was such a great concept.
I concur.
I gotta give it a Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a Shaun of the Dead too. Yeah. Well, we both ordered bacon cheeseburger with avocado. All right, so the final score is 4-4.
Wow.
So guess who's going to determine the winner now that we have a tie?
Is it going to be our fans?
Our fans are going to determine the winner. So a few days ago, I did a poll on Instagram for which is better, Shaun of the Dead or 28 Days Later. Can you guess who won?
I'm going to guess it's what I said earlier. Your reaction, I'm going to say Shaun of the Dead won.
Shaun of the Dead won handsomely.
What was the portions?
69% of the vote.
Wow.
To 31%. So Shaun of the Dead received 273 votes, and 28 Days Later received 124 votes.
Wow,
so,
that was surprising.
I mean, that's a pretty good. There's 400 people pretty much who voted. So I mean, it's a solid population. It's a solid consensus of people who like film.
That's big enough to get a really general, confirmed idea. Like. Wow, 70-30. That's crazy.
But I like it. Now the fans determined, our fans determined who the zombie king is between these two.
And clearly, there's a reason why Edgar Wright is so loved as a filmmaker.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead is the king.
The king of these two zombie films.
The king of zombie movies.
There's some other stuff that I want to talk about. So for like 28 Days Later, I kind of dabbled in this earlier. So I think one of the strengths of that film is it's a lot more emotional and these existential elements in terms of humanity and what happens to people when they're reduced to their lowest elements. And this film, like we said, deals with two types of monsters: zombies and humans. The military men at the compound, they're just as monstrous as the zombies, just in a different way. And Jim loses his humanity at a point in this film. Even Selena loses part of her humanity.
I think her humanity is gone before they even shows up.
When he meets her, when she meets him, for sure. Because she kills people now, even though they're about to turn, but she still kills them while they're human, which is nuts. But it's self-preservation. So this film it's big time into survival. The zombie genre encompasses survival, post-apocalyptic, comedy, horror, all of that. And so I think that the emotional connection that I have for 28 Days Later is just deeper than Shaun of the Dead.
And also, I really think it's the realism of it, the believability of it happening also works in the favor of the film, especially after COVID, like how fast the virus can spread, how deadly it can be. And, obviously it's a little unrealistic in terms of like what it does to people. But like I said earlier, scientists say that if rabies became airborne, that would be like the worst thing that could ever happen to humanity because it's such a lethal, deadly virus and so vicious.
Why do you think I run all the time? I'm convinced that running is going to save my life. I don't know when or how it's going to happen, but it will.
Yeah, you might be found in a situation where
you know what's going to suck is we're going to be together and I'm going to be like, bro, I have to leave you. You're going to get me killed.
I'm gassed.
You're like up the block. You're like, I can't make it. 200 feet.
I'd have a samurai sword.
Oh, yeah? You should probably get it now just in case.
But I think the realistic element of the virus is what I really love about the film.
Yeah, it's great. You want to do some fun facts?
Absolutely.
Alrighty, cool. Let's do it. Let's start with Shaun of the Dead. When Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg were pitching the film Shaun of the Dead, Film 4 Productions showed interest in it. Then Film 4 significantly cut back its budget, leaving the movie without a production company for a while because Edgar Wright was still hoping to get this movie made. He held off taking any other directing jobs while searching for new financing for this movie and ended up having to borrow money from his friends, including Simon Pegg. And so this is a quote for him. For me to take on a television job meant that I was like pushing the film back. So I was going rapidly broke. I was majorly in the red, and according to Wright, Pegg still hasn't allowed him to pay back the money he owes him from those lean times.
Oh, wow. What a good friend.
Oh, they're doing pretty well now.
Yeah, they're doing fine.
It was probably like 10 grand.
Many of the zombie extras are fans of the TV show Spaced. What happened was Edgar Wright wrote them all and said, hey, we're filming a zombie movie. If you want to be in it, just show up. And they weren't expecting that many to come out. They recruited them all on a fan website for Spaced. And to their surprise, hundreds of fans showed up to play zombies as extras.
When Shaun is heading to the shop for the first time, a worker on the street is listening to the radio. The newscast mentions a space probe that unexpectedly re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and broke up over England. This is likely a reference to Night of the Living Dead, in which radiation from a satellite returning from Venus was given a possible cause for the dead returning to life.
This is pretty funny. So Ed, he's always like scratching his crotch. And Nick Frost kept his genitals shaved throughout the production to create a genuine need to scratch that area. Quentin Tarantino dubbed Shaun of the Dead as one of the top 20 movies made since 1992.
Shaun berates Ed for calling the creatures zombies. This alludes to the curious fact that many of the most iconic zombie movies, including Night of the Living Dead and Resident Evil, never use the word zombie at all. It can also be a reference to Danny Boyle, director of 28 Days Later, and his insistence that it isn't a zombie movie. The scene where Jim and Selena celebrate with Frank and Hannah was shot on September 11th, 2001. Danny Boyle said it felt extremely strange to shoot a celebratory scene on that particular day.
Athletes were cast as the infected because of how important physicality is to them. Danny Boyle felt that since the athletes can do things normal people can't, they would be much more visually interesting when translated into the movements of the infected.
Alex Garland and Danny Boyle did a great deal of research into social unrest, drawing ideas from things that happened in Rwanda and Sierra Leone, such as the piling of bodies inside churches, but drew the line at using any actual footage from such incidents in the opening montage. All footage featuring dead bodies, desecration of bodies was faked.
Ewan McGregor was actually supposed to be playing the lead role of this film, but what happened was he and Danny Boyle had a falling out over the film The Beach. So for The Beach, Danny Boyle originally wanted Ewan McGregor, but then the studio forced him to hire Leonardo DiCaprio instead because he was a bigger star. And then Ewan McGregor took it very personally, and although they were very close, he and Danny Boyle had a big falling out, and so they stopped working together. Although now they are friends and did make that Trainspotting sequel, they didn't speak to each other for almost 10 years. 28 Days Later was one of the first mainstreams to be shot entirely with digital cameras.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to our episode of Shaun of the Dead versus 28 Days Later. You chose Shaun of the Dead as the winner of this contest, so thanks so much for everyone who voted.
Came down to the wire.
Yeah, big thanks to everyone who's become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Your donations are so grateful because now we're both full-time officially on the podcast. Neither of us have our day jobs anymore because all of you amazing fans help support us. So thank you so much.
We love you all. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Find us on all audio streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us. Find us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Be sure to check out one of these other videos right here for more content on our favorite films and breaking down all kinds of movie content. Thanks so much.